Hi there, it's Nicole from Mama Elephant, and today I have a stamp highlight video sharing the new balloon letters and balloon etc. stamp sets from Mama Elephant, and I've paired them with the little panda bear from Pandemonium, as well as a background die cut with the large stitched rectangle from Pika Frames. So I've die cut my background first from some smooth white cardstock using that stitched rectangle die. I wouldn't necessarily have to do that. I love that it's a 5.5 by 4.25 inch size, and that way I can color on this. It has a nice decorative back or a frame around this background, and I don't have to worry about the inside of my card being compromised and the Copic markers bleeding through that way. I can adhere this directly to the front of my card. So this is basically a one-layer card with the exception that I'm laying this whole panel on my card front. I stamped my panda with some hybrid ink from My Favorite Things. This is the black licorice ink. This ink works well with Copic markers, and because I will be using some Copic markers in the background, I wanted to make sure I used an ink that wouldn't bleed. And then I'm stamping my balloon letters using the pigment inks from Mama Elephant. I'm using Fresh Mint for the letters and then the little balloon tails here. And then for the decorative balloons, the star and teddy bear and circle, I am using other colors of pigment ink. I'm going to finish the balloon letters here first. I'm spelling out my nephew's name. This is for his first birthday card. I played around with maybe stamping the letters in different colors and decided that I thought the maximum impact was if they were all in the same color, so it makes it really easy to read. And then the coordinating or complementary, I guess is the word I'm looking for, balloons were in other colors. And that way I was still able to add pops of color to and make the balloon bouquet, you know, bright and fun, but still be able to read his name. So on the left side, I'm having a little group of balloons here, and I did mask off the edge of the card. I love it. Adds an instant matte if you leave that little edge from the stitched die cut to the edge of the cut piece. So I masked that off with a little piece of Post-it tape and stamped the teddy bear with the Buttercup pigment ink. Make sure I'll stamp the little balloon tail. I'll go ahead and grab the star, and I'm going to stamp that with the lemongrass pigment ink. This is a really fun, bright, kind of limey green. Great boy colors here for this card. The little balloon tail, of course. Clean my stamp real quick as I'm working, especially because I'm using that same balloon tail for all of the balloons, so I want to make sure it's good and clean in between each stamped image. And then because this was his first birthday, I stamped the number 1 using that same Fresh Mint ink. And then I thought I needed a little pop of color over there on the right side as well, but I didn't want it to be too overwhelming with too many balloons, so I chose the Orange Aid ink and just stamped the circle balloon. Added the tail, and now I'm ready to start adding my background. I was very much inspired by Sandy, my friend Sandy, who creates the most amazing Copic backgrounds, and she just is an amazing color. She's a genius with the markers, and so I just kind of played around with some of her techniques. I definitely need more practice and things like that, but it was really fun. This is a really simple one. I drew in my landscape with one marker and colored it in. Nothing crazy about that. I am going to create some clouds, and I'm just drawing those in. This is a technique she shared in her online card class that she did with Jennifer McGuire and Christina Warner. You should definitely check it out. There are lots of great Copic techniques and all kinds of things. If you're looking to improve your Copic coloring, I highly recommend it. And then I'm just kind of feathering. I drew that in with a little bit darker blue ink. It's not very dark, but a little bit, and then I'm taking a lighter blue-green marker and feathering out from that line and kind of blending that line in. As the alcohol ink in these markers dries, it does lighten up a little bit, so you won't see quite so much of that wet space that you might be seeing here. I'll just keep coloring those in and adding color until my sky is filled in. And with just this tiny bit of blue, it really does look like a sky. You do not have to color the whole thing, which I think is awesome. This is very simple, very quick. I didn't take a ton of time when doing this. And if you feel like maybe you didn't get that feathered out to white as much as you would like, you can go in with the colorless ink blender and kind of clean up and smooth out any of those areas so that that blue blends into the white a lot better. So where it's really wet, it looks horrible, but as that dries, I think it really looks much, much better. I wasn't terribly confident with my feathering my blue into white, so I smoothed it out with my colorless blender. I did pull in a little bit of blue from the corners up there at the top. I felt like it needed it, and of course pulled in some blue from my landscape down below. So I'll finish filling that in anywhere where I felt like it maybe needed a little bit more, and then I can finish up the balloons by adding or drawing in my own balloon strings. If you wanted to draw the balloon strings prior to adding the clouds, you would probably want to use a Copic pen multiliner so that it won't bleed. But since I'm drawing these after I've added my background, I went ahead and just used a black pen I had. This is a very fine tip, an extra small fine tip. I wanted it to look like I had colored the string rather is tied around the balloon and then it's coming down from there. And before I added the other two balloon strings, because I did smooth out a little bit of my sky, while that's drying, I went in and feathered in or created some little blades of grass in a little bit deeper, darker color of green, just here and there all along the landscape to really add interest to that. Now that my sky is dried, I can go ahead and draw in those other two balloon strings. So a cute little panda is floating up from the ground holding on to two handfuls full of balloons. I colored in his cheeks with a little bit of light pink, and then to add a little shading around him, I just went in with some cool gray markers, and I'm also going around the balloons, giving them just a tiny bit of definition. This background is really, really light compared to the one I did a few days ago with the monkey and the balloons, where it was much, much darker. So I didn't want to use too dark of a gray marker. This is very light and adding just some really subtle shadows. In fact, if you get too dark, go in with the colorless blender and smooth out anything that maybe was too dark, or even a lighter gray marker will work. I did go over his cheeks because I felt like they were maybe a little too bright pink. And I wanted to finish my card with an additional stamped greeting using the Happy Everything stamp set. However, the scripty word happy is way too big for this design. Since it is too big, I kind of improvised. I stamped the words birthday and then the phrase to you from Happy Everything using the black ink that I used for the panda. And then I am masking off parts of the phrase from 100 Happy Days and only inking up the word happy. So I masked it off with that masking paper. I'll pull off those masks and then just stamp the word happy. Then I'll go back to my stamp set and grab the word O and stamp that in front of that. So my greeting will read, "Oh, happy birthday to you." A really fun way to customize and be able to use this greeting stamp set, even though I couldn't find a good way to use the word happy. So I'll just go ahead and add the word O really quick. That's a really fun and easy way to mask a greeting stamp and only use the portion of it that works for your card design. Now, I thought the balloons needed a tiny bit of Wink of Stella, so I will go over all of my balloons coloring those in with the clear glitter pen to add a little sparkle and shine. I'm trying to keep only to the colored portion of the balloons in this instance because I did use the pigment ink and it stays wet quite a bit longer, and I didn't want it to bleed out into any of those white areas. If you have any of those white areas that maybe it does bleed into, I'll show you a little trick for cleaning that up. Up here where I have the I in the word Eli and the yellow balloon, they overlap a little bit, as well as the orange round balloon and the number 1. So I'm taking a white gel pen and simply tracing over those white highlight portions in the balloons to cover that up and make one appear to be on top of another. Very quick, very easy. I will attach this to my white card base and this card is finished. I hope you've enjoyed this video showcasing the new balloons, etc. and balloon letters stamp sets from Mama Elephant. The supplies I've used are listed and linked below the video on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.